Well, we've had just an amazing evening here with these two amazing people. And what a blessing it's been. And thank you so much, guys, for your
Oh,
transparency.
thank you. What does that word transparency mean?
It means you're being real.
My friends are listening, so please explain. Transparency means
So
Being open, so open and sharing. Yeah. You know, you guys both of you went through some big struggles with losing a spouse. And I don't think if you've ever gone through it, you probably can fully understand. So when people come up, they've never done that and said, "Hey, I know what you're going through," and you're thinking, "No, you don't," because it's something that your life literally gets thrown in a upheaval
tailspin.
and a tailspin, and you're trying to figure out how to do this, and so you're just sharing openly and talking about that. Of the transitions that you went through that was just really phenomenal. And is there anything that you would want to tell people that are going through something like that would help them? Some keys that like stages that you went through to help people process stuff.
For me, definitely the first 60 days you're in shock and you don't really feel anything. Lots of crying. And then there are stages of I'm okay and then I'm not. And then there's anger and there's disbelief. And then when the shock starts to wear off and all of what you thought you've already been through in the past 60 days hits you again, worse, because you're coming out of that shock and it's for real. They're not coming back. That was the hardest part for me, was coming out of the shock into the realization of this is really happening and I have to walk through this. And so my advice would be keep going. Don't give up. Don't take your eyes off Jesus and keep pressing in. And he's going to show up in a way that you've never experienced before, but don't give up.
Now, Dog, you went through something too, because you're the rough and tough wrestling guys down. You're the man's man. So when people look at Dog the Bonehead, the man's man, and then you go through something like you went through, it knocks the wind out of you, doesn't it?
Well, I agree with Francie. The first 60 days you're in shock.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you like call their cell phones and they don't answer. Then you're like, wait a minute. She ain't answering the cell phone. And then you're like, what I thought was guys that got restraining orders put against them. And I go, man, you got a restraining order against you. Why did you go see her? And he's like, most of them were like, Dog, I love her. And I thought, if there was a restraining order on me now, I'd be in jail because I would go. And as, again, Francie says, if I wouldn't have had Jesus, I would have killed a couple enemies that I don't like, or not killed them, but I'd have had a list. I did have a list. And I would have either that or committed suicide and, slow. I'd have taken too much medicine. I'm not brave enough to jump off a building or use a gun, but I'd have went more. I just took enough pills to go. So without Jesus, you contemplate all of that.
Yep.
Then you realize, oh no, the phone, and to hear their voice or something, because Beth is on TV. To hear their voice, you still hear it. I still hear my mommy died in 94, and I still hear my mommy in my dreams. I, hear her voice. So all of that stuff, and if it wasn't, having faith in Jesus and knowing that God is going to provide, and then Francie coming into my life to take every bit of that away. When you start talking about it, you go back into it. But then I always even dream, Beth's young, and I always see Beth young. It's never when she's older like we were. And then Francie enters the dream, and then it kind of goes away. And like you say, people will come up to you. Today it happened. And this elderly lady said, I know what you went through. I lost my dog last week. And she goes, I slept with it, and I loved it so much. And I thought, lady, you have no idea.
Yeah.
So they try to comfort you and say, I understand.
It's a loss, and so they want to feel like they understand.
Right.
So.
So I loved you guys had such a powerful story of, we had been talking about this earlier about hope
Yes.
and restoration and how out of grieving, that deep place, because so many people are grieving, right now of different things, but even more than just losing a spouse, your story inspires hope that God has not, in your worst, whatever that is, trauma, sex trafficking, addictions, broken, whatever it is, that your story brings hope.
Yes.
Well, and the first thing is, because I lost Barbara Katie, my little first daughter, born at 20-some years old. And the only one that got me through it was Tim's story. And the Christians said, and a Jewish man said, the Christians said, well, Jesus said, let the dead bury the dead. Come on, let's do this, right? And Tim's story said, dog, there's a time to mourn, and it's not right now. So whether you come out of anything, death or something that makes you hurt, is called mourning. And you got to go through it. You can't, there's nothing you can do to stop the mourning. And then there's also time heals all wounds. And, you're thinking, wow, it's a year. Okay, now it's 2 years. And, when does time take over? And until Francie came in my life, it was bad constantly all the time. So it's not that I replaced her, but Francie took over the love immediately. And I always tell her, I'm not Bob, Francie. I'm tough physically, but I get a cold and I want Francie. And I caught the flu once and she came in the bed because Bob worked till the day he passed.
Yeah.
No, literally. And so I was trying to be Bob so strong, right? And she came in and goes, wow, what's wrong with you? And I looked up at her and I was so sick. And I go, Francie, I am not Bob. And she goes, honey, it's all right. I know you're not. Like, I
didn't mean it like that.
Yeah, whatever. But I'm sorry, but it still bothers me because now I'm like, oh, I get hurt. And what's the matter? Nothing. So it made me more of a man. But nothing until something mourning. You just keep mourning. You're going to keep mourning.
Yeah.
You got to replace it. How many times we raise our kids and their puppy dies and you wait, then you wait, and then, okay, it's time to buy a new puppy.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that is, it's just, and we're let's be factual, oh, you can't say that, or whatever, and then the puppy, you don't name it, Rover number 2, it gets its own name, and the Lord provides love, and it's a natural thing, especially if you have faith in God. Faith, God says, I overcome every single thing for you, but there is a time to mourn. Correct?
Yeah, and we have
Jesus wept.
That's right. We have to go through the grief process. Otherwise, all we're doing is stuffing it down, and it's going to show up later when you don't want it to, and it's going to spill out. And there is a grieving process, but when we have hope in the Lord and we're clinging to Him and we're chasing after Him and we're holding on to Him, He is the one that gets us through the grief. And we can't lose hope in where we're at. The enemy wants to put us in a spirit of grief to where we are stuck in it and we can't move from it. And that's not what the Lord has for us.
No. And always I say, or I used to tell people, no matter how bad you are, someone's worse. Mm-hmm. And then I used to go find that worse someone and say, how you feel? And try to counsel them. Yeah. Right after Beth passed, I met a lady. She lost her husband, both her daughters, and her son in a car accident.
Wow.
She was in the back seat and not a scratch on her. So I thought, oh my goodness. The whole family was wiped out like that. So I went and spoke to her, and I go, how are you doing it? She said, I'm not. I won't be here much longer on this on the earth, on the world. I go, are you going to commit suicide? She's like, no, the Lord is going to take me. And I never did go back and check and see. So,
I find that when people are in deep trauma, and we see this all the time as we work with people in the healing journey, is they want to be evacuated out of their situation. Right. Whether that situation was thrust on them or it was one of their making, they did something wrong and now they're in the consequences. They want to be evacuated, like helicoptered out, like, God, just take me out of this. Right. But what we see, and I think what your story so beautifully shows, is the fact that there is a journey.
Yes.
There is a process.
And it's an important process.
Yes, because I believe that when God gets into that and we allow Him to do that deep healing, you can come out stronger. Like I look at you guys are on platforms that, you know, you could only imagine.
We would have never been.
Never been.
Right.
So God's bringing you into whole new, and you can mourn the past, but God's got something, a whole new season for the two of you, and beauty out of ashes.
And excitement.
right.
But you had to walk through the journey, and so that would be my encouragement, is that you don't get evacuated out as much as we want to in that moment, but God will walk you through.
I think it reminds me of Luke 4:18. The Bible says that Jesus came to heal the brokenhearted.
That's right.
And you're thinking, what does that mean? Well, when you go through a big grief, your heart is broken. I mean, it's not in just in half, it's in pieces.
Yeah.
And you're like, how do I put this together? And I think without Jesus being the author and the finisher of our faith, we can't put it together ourselves. And that's why people are, give up hope. They just, what's the point?
Yeah.
I failed so many times and I've let everybody down, but the Lord says, but I'm still here and I'm still willing to work with you. I still have plans for your life. And when we allow Him to come in and start healing that inner part of our lives, our broken heart, and putting it back into pieces, He can take us from one level to the next. Well, I had a friend that just died at 98 years old. He got married the first time and his wife lived for 25 years and died of cancer. And he actually got remarried, and his second wife lived for 25 years and died of cancer.
Oh.
And he said this to me, he says, I really loved my first wife. I was madly in love with her. We were sweethearts growing up. And he says, but I loved my second wife even more. He says, I never thought I could ever do that. After his second wife dies, we hear at 90 years old, he's getting married and she's 37.
Oh, wow.
I'm thinking,
They were perfect together. They were amazing together.
Whatever you would want to think about it, it wasn't that. They were perfect together. And he said this to me at 95 years old. He says, I never thought I would be able to love and have love in my heart for 3 women. And he says, and this is even a better marriage than the first 2. And I looked at him, I said, his name was Oscar. I said, Oscar, you've lived a rich life.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Being able to have that love and not quitting, not giving up, but persisting and saying, I know my heart was broken, but God's still not done with me.
Well, before we go on to another thing, I just want to say, you made the comment that time heals all wounds. And the interesting thing is time in itself has no magical power to heal anything.
Right.
We've talked with people who 30, 40 years later are still so paralyzed by trauma or whatever else it is. And so the key is not time. The key is time with the Lord.
That's right.
The Lord
It's not just
taking
the
that
time.
time and the Lord walking you through that time span.
And that's what I meant.
I know you meant. I'm just clarifying for them.
Or in the.
Yeah.
You're good.
So I do dog walking on the streets, and about 8% of homeless are, why you hear drugs, why you hear drugs, why you hear, I lost my wife.
Yeah.
Well, how long
Never
ago?
pull out.
8 years. Do you
And
believe
he's
in
still
God?
stuck.
Oh, I don't want to talk about that. You don't
Well,
want to talk
because-
about Jesus? Oh, no, I don't want to. The body language, they turn their head, the da-da-da. I said, listen, you'll be homeless till you die. Because that's what Jesus is for.
He's the one to
is,
pull you
as you
out.
say, to heal the brokenhearted.
Well, and people want to blame God for their loved one passing away or dying, and God didn't do it.
Yeah.
God didn't do it. Hard things happen to us in this world.
It's a broken world.
And that we live through. And He wants to get us through it. And He wants to be the healer. And He wants to bring us through that.
Yeah.
And if we're willing to say yes to Him, and if we're willing to let Him heal our hearts and heal our brokenness and take us through the grieving process, the things that He can do in and through us is incredible. Things that we never dreamed possible for our lives.
Amen. Well, John 10:10 says it's the thief or the devil that comes to kill, steal,
rob, and destroy.
That's right.
Right? And so killing, it's right in there. But yet Jesus came to give life and life more abundant.
That's
so
right.
He's always the answer.
Well, and people think, I to preach to preachers.
Oh, you're good.
Pastor, But a lot of people, I said this in prison when I was inmate counselor. The Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. And I would say, Ernest can too, especially one of my friends lost his nephews. And I go, no. That was Job who goes, the Lord giveth and God said, shut your big mouth. Where were you when I created the foundations of the earth? You dummy, I didn't do that.
Yeah.
And people take that the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away.
No.
That was a misquote by Job.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
But that, a lot of
Absolutely.
people really think that.
Yeah.
You know, they come up and say, oh, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. And I never let them get away with it.
No, good.
And it's
Call 'em on
usually
it.
women, way
Yes.
older women. Wait a minute, lady. That is a misquote where they're like, right? I don't know if they believe
Twisted
me or not.
scripture.
Yeah.
No, but that's
Yeah.
a very, that's
Yeah,
one of the
it's very
greatest
much quoted.
twisted scriptures there
Yes.
is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you got a new
Let's-
book coming out. I want to just get a little highlight, a little taste on your new book.
Okay.
Give us
And
the
then I want to
title.
ask a fun question.
And then just give us a little blurb of what it's about.
It's called This Dog Has 9 Lives. Thank you. Knocked out my mic, baby. It's called This Dog Has 9 Lives because I do.
Yeah.
And so, Francie's helping, of course. This is my, what is Katie to you?
Mentor.
This is my mentor. No, really.
No, I got
Besides being a wife, she's my mentor.
Yeah.
So I wanted to have me and Jesus got our own thing going. And she's like, no. But this dog has 9 lives and there's more than that. So we go through. Now, the first books, they said, you can mention Jesus a few times. You get 1 out of 12 angels. But let's keep this secular, okay? She went to him and said, he wants a Christian book. We're going to tell it like it is. We're going to talk miracles, angels. And they
Yeah.
went, okay.
Well, it's a different publishing house
Absolutely.
also. So
Yeah.
Well, Simon & Schuster, same one I had. I mean, they're big. They're
Yeah.
Tim Story, Tony Robbins big.
It's exciting.
So they said, good. So we got a Christian ex-preacher's author we just got. So that's going to be, I get to let loose, right?
Yay!
Because you got to
exciting.
watch it when you're,
Yeah.
in the secular, is it called, world. Like I said, you get 1 out of 11 angels in the book. And, but we're going to do that very soon.
we're working on it.
We're working
You're
on it
working
now.
on it
No,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So-
but we made the deal. I mean, we did.
Yeah.
Yay.
good.
Awesome.
Yes.
We're excited. So you're Dog the Bounty Hunter. So we know what's all gone in your lives over the last few years. The question we keep getting asked, or we keep hearing all the time, 2 things. Are you still hunting?
Okay.
And 2, are you ever going to film again? Your
So
hunts.
we're down looking for Brian Laundrie.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden we get all these volunteers, right? Like 25 or 30 people, the boats with with the fans on them, the dogs, we had them. So what really got me was these guys that were like, I'm 53 years old, ex-CIA. What? Well, the FBI makes you retire in your early 50s. Makes you. How dumb is that? But you can be a Supreme Court justice till you're 112.
Yeah.
So, and the Bible talks about getting wisdom and knowledge in your
Yeah.
50s, right? So, the CIA, then the FBI, then all these guys. So we took them out, and I had to fight to be alpha dog, right? And we're working, and the next day they call Francie, and they go, how does he do it? How do you guys do it? We're so sore we can't walk. And I thought, oh man, we lost him. The next day they called and said, we're ready again. And so God gave me the word. Look up the word essentials. So I went to the Webster, as I do often, and looked up, and it's something you've got to have. So we're calling it Dog the Bounty Hunter and the Essentials. So
I love
we
it.
got just like 3 or 4 of your guys here.
Yeah.
The muscle guys,
Yeah.
they're all ex-FBI, ex-CIA, and they're in their early 50s. So we're hooking up with those guys going after high-profile murders. They've already found 3 bodies in 2 months.
Wow.
So anywhere there's high profile, people want to talk. Now, filming, the networks are pal with cop shows. Done with cop shows. They're done with any kind of cop. It's like Honey Boo Boo get more than we do. Okay, this is the world today.
Yeah.
They got something called YouTube.
Yeah.
And that
and streaming.
and streaming
networks.
because they could cut you
Yes.
right off. You know, all these guys that the other day one of the government agents or the government on Biden's side said something and I went, how stupid is that? And it came back on my Instagram. You have just said a word that may not be, and I'm like, stupid about Pelosi? Oh, what? You have said something that may be causing
You're monitored now.
Yeah, and so I went, I am sorry, and then it went through.
Yeah.
Then I went, but she's stupid. They didn't catch it. Ding. So you got to really watch because they'll cut you right off.
Yeah.
Because I don't know who,
Too much censorship.
Sorazo or Balaza
Yeah.
Baba or
Yeah.
Alibaba or somebody's running stuff. So we're going to do it ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's
Good
not
stuff.
as lucrative, I guess, but
Yeah.
I think it might
But well, it
Maybe
doesn't.
Netflix will
When you
pick it up.
It's not about that.
Oh,
Yeah.
Really, it's about what you're doing for the kingdom.
Yeah.
And it's not about necessarily the networks anymore, and it's
Right.
about what you're doing to make a difference and change what you did to make a bigger difference than what you were doing from before.
well, and I was a network guy, okay, because 20 years, right?
Yeah, long time.
And she's like, honey, we don't care about that anymore. You go do it, and I'll take it from there, she said. So I'm like, oh, what about A&E and CBS and NBC? So then I watch NBC News. I'm like, you are flat out liars. No, wait a minute. How come you're not being sued over that?
Yeah.
You know, why didn't you show just like the greatest thing? And I can't carry a gun and don't want to because I'd shoot people. Thank God I haven't. And because I'd have shot a bunch. But the guy went in the store and the kid shot the perp.
Yeah.
One time on the news. Then another guy was behind the liquor store. The guy come in, robbing. Boom! He shot him. Never on the news.
Yeah.
Wait a minute here.
Yeah.
So I thought when they first passed the law in the 80s about Texas carrying guns, oh no, it's on like the Alamo, right? No, it's not. So the network news are liars. There's somebody going to sue them someday.
False news.
And once you
Fake news.
once you find out now that they lied, oh, they're dead. You know, they die by the time you find out. So I have to sometimes watch so that I know what the enemy plans because I'm a man.
Yeah.
She's like, but you're filling your head for all that. Turn it off. I mean, Joe Bayard is my friend. I met her. She was on her show. Whoopi now is out of her mind. Oh, the stuff them idiot women are saying, completely wrong.
Yeah.
You know, where's the
They're having to be
real?
called out now. There's been
Things
filed
good
against them.
Lord. She said,
Politically correct. The sad part is the media today is controlled by just a few families.
Yeah.
All of the media is
Yeah.
controlled, and they're very corrupt, and
Yeah.
they want to indoctrinate, not have free media like our country's supposed to have.
well, I didn't realize it when Trump started saying fake news. Yeah, no, because
I
I
really
thought,
was.
who would have known, right?
Yeah.
And I thought, what's wrong with our press?
Yeah.
Fake news. Now I'm like, oh my God, it is such fake news.
Yeah,
And I really don't care what they say because I'll see you in court. And you get 12 people of my peers that are Christians. Are you saved? No. Out. Are you saved? No. Right? You get of your peers.
Yes.
You an atheist? Out. We don't want them.
Yeah.
You get 12 people, Christians against them, punks. They're done.
yeah,
So, but
Yeah.
we're in the position where we don't need the networks anymore.
Yeah.
And it's going to, you know, we do Airbnb's houses. There ain't no networks anymore.
Yeah.
You go to Netflix, you go to this
Yeah.
flick, you go to that flick,
Yeah.
you know, so
Yeah.
they're
God's
slowly.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think
Well,
one of the
let's-
things is as we wrap up, I think one of the things that with your new series of doing this, it's going to help some of these FBI guys and the ex-CIA guys to see some fulfillment
Find
in what
purpose
they're
again.
doing.
Yes.
You know, because you talk
Yes.
about a frustrating job in the police force and the government being politically correct,
Right.
and not being able to draw your gun or not being able to
Yeah.
chase the guys, and you're on the other end, the Wild West, chasing them down, and they
Right.
finally get to do that. Yeah, that's probably very rewarding.
Well, the one guy
for
them.
told me in
Yeah.
Francie, if I catch another fish, I'm killing myself. And I'm like, what? Because he can't.
Well, because
Yeah.
he's retired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, and he's young, you
My
know.
goodness. Well, it's exciting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I want to
Exciting
thank you
days.
guys
Exciting.
so much for taking
Yeah.
the time to just share with our church
thank you.
family.
Thank you.
And just give us some extra insight
Thank
into
you
your
for
hearts.
having
We love you. You
us.
guys are dear friends.
We love you
just
guys.
Love you guys too. Yay. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Thank you so
Blessings.
much.
Thank you.
Am I okay? You'll tell me later? I don't know.
We're okay. Anyhow, if
Tell
you
me
missed
now.
the service tonight with Dog and Francie, you can go to our YouTube channel, Source Church YouTube, or our Facebook page, Source Church Bradenton. It's there. You can watch it in its entirety. It was awesome. If you missed it, make sure you grab it. And thanks for giving us this few minutes.
Thank you. Aloha.